first episode of this that I did was with someone that she is by far my favorite CEO, and someone that I hold at a very high standard. And she is back today, Amanda Lannert. Welcome.
Thanks. Delighted to be back.
Well, I was just saying, like, week two, I think it was week two that you and I talked, and we're still at home. That hasn't changed.
Very excitingly, I've moved from working on my bed to working from an armchair in my basement. So like things are crazy over here, like moving on, new and different horizons for sure.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And as you can see, I'm not in my bedroom anymore. So we both moved since week two. Um, so I wanted to first of all say, when I wanted to start doing this, you're the first person I asked, and you said yes. No if, ands, or buts. You said, yeah, sure, I'm down, and you helped me to it. And if I'll say this in front of everyone, if you hadn't said yes, I don't know how I would have, if I would have like continued to do this, but I've been having a lot of fun doing these, and I think a lot of people have seen a lot of value in these. So thank you for that. I am extremely grateful for you for that, and you've always been supportive. Anytime I have asked you for, to help with anything or volunteer with anything, I just want to let you know that I'm extremely grateful for that. And this whole topic of how to build a great network, I hate that word network, how to build great relationships, to add to your network. I watch you, I look at you, I look at like what you've done, especially, the last 4 or 5 years. And it's something that I look up to, and like, I actually want to do that, like I want to have that credibility and be involved as much. So thank you for everything you do is what I wanted to say, Amanda.
And I'm going to say that's so silly because you're such a leader and such a generous spirit, and this is all about you giving. So of course people would say yes and try to give back as well. But I like the leadership is all you, Benny.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So this series, how to build a great network, right? It's all about, people are seeing now that there's a lot of people that have came out to me and said, hey, how did you do this? Or how did you meet these people? I feel like I don't have a good network. I feel I don't want to reach out to so-and-so because I'm nervous. I don't think they want to talk to me. So the whole consensus was like, a lot of people came up to me and said, they feel lonely. They feel isolated. They feel like being in the office, they were able to talk to people. Now they can't, right? And you and I've talked, I feel the complete opposite. I talk to more people now, new and existing, than I did before. So I want to talk to you about how you build those relationships that you have right now. And I know there's so much we could talk about, but I want to go into maybe early 2000s or so, when you were still getting started in your professional career as a leader. Kind of walk me through what you did to build some of those really good relationships.
Yeah, so first things first, I didn't build my network. Largely Mark Ackler and Troy Henikoff, two of my mentors, did. I became very, very lucky that early mentors and advisors and friends to me were also some of the best connectors in Chicago tech. And Troy is the reason I'm at Jellyvision. I met him in 99 or 2000. And Mark, I met a few years later, and he was on an advisory board for Jellyvision. And it just has been like a true, capital F friend of Jellyvision, a friend of mine for years. But because those guys are connectors, they would send interesting people my way on almost a monthly basis for years and years and years. And my job was only to take the meeting, listen, be very honest and transparent about where we are, what we're working on, what we're up to, and then to try to be helpful. So people will say, how did you build your network? The first response is, I didn't. But I have suggestions about how to think about networking and approaching people sort of that might be helpful. And the first is, the reality is people want to be helpful more often than not. It's not about do they want to help you. It's about, can you make it as easy as possible for someone to be helpful? Very long, detailed emails asking someone to meet you to help you figure out who you want to be when you grow up. Super hard ask. Very short, specific email of saying, I see that you're really connected with this person, that I would love to have a chance to explain how my solution could help solve their problems. Would you be open to forwarding this exact email to them at your convenience? Much, much easier for someone to hit forward and hit send. So a lot of what you need to do is break down what would be helpful to you and make it as easy as possible for the person you're trying to get to do. The second thing is, I think that the art of follow-up is really important, and I won't pretend to be amazing at it. I more, when I experience it, I'm like, that is so great. When you make a connection to someone and they actually connect, to follow back to the person who had done you the favor and say, thank you, I met with them, we're going to keep talking, you just nailed it, or thank you, we're not, nothing's coming out of it, but like, it was just really great for you to think of me. And sort of for people who make connections or people who extend their network or do favors, to say thank you back to them, because it makes them feel so good that they want to like keep doing it again. And also a lot of times people say like, how do I get a network, or how do I get? And I would say, it's much better to spend your time not asking what can I get, but instead to say, what can I give? What advice can I provide? Because so much of like early Jellyvision was about the implosion and shutdown of the gaming company. And we had done it culturally right. And then sort of the rise again, coming out to the company that it is today, very different. We got really good at just being transparent about navigating hard times and sharing what worked and what didn't work in equal measure. And just like telling people stories again and again, and not being secretive about failures, and not being elusive with data or information or best practices, just giving that again and again. Not only do you feel great about being helpful, but people start to know, oh, you can call so-and-so and they'll actually give you good advice. So everyone early in their careers, you don't necessarily build a network with CEOs just out of college, but you build a network with your peers, because your peers and you are the future CEOs. And you start by saying, what am I going to get good at? And what am I going to be generous about? Just like you, opening your network and sharing and creating a forum where people can learn in these crazy times. Like, one of the best ways to get through a recession is to, in fact, invest in yourself, and you're helping people invest in themselves. So I would say everyone should sit down and get really reflective, not on how do I get a hold of this person, but what am I going to get good at? And then share as generously as possible to make somebody else's life easier. And then it's funny how karma and network come to you accordingly.
So when you say what, like someone should get really good at, can you give an example?
Yeah. Social media marketing, leadership, networking, solving hard technical problems, how to use open source in a protected environment. Like, there's really anything, like any sort of domain experience that you have, but blogging about it, showing up at meetups, raising your hand, contributing. Gary Vee said something that I watched and it kind of stuck with me. Is like, you never turn down a mic, even if it's only 5 people. One of the people could be the CEO of your next important customer. And so also, because I think it's important to like lady up the rooms, to have like women represented, so people get used to seeing women at events and women on panels and women in various places. I do try to show up as much as possible, because that's where opportunity happens. I met you at an event where you had showed up and I showed up, and we're just like open to conversations. And most of us would, in fact, rather be at home on our couches watching Netflix. But it's an investment. Network is an investment, and sometimes it takes energy and sometimes it creates energy, but you have to be willing to deal with a deficit, at least for a little while.
Yeah, I saw you speak at like 4 different events before I met you, and I want to give a shout out to Ryan and that Ignite community, because they did a really good job, and it was more of an intimate meeting, so I was fortunate enough to talk to you then. But I mean, that was the 4th time I've heard you talk. So when it comes to like the effort part that you said, I think that's where people have hesitancies. Like, they don't want to go to different events, and there's a lot of cliches to it, because there's definitely a lot of awkwardness, but you have to do that, right? You have to do that. You have to go through that in order to like meet some of the good people. So what's your advice, or if you want to share something personal, like on how you went about navigating that and balancing that with your work, with family, with all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't say this to be depressing. I say it to just be honest. When I had little kids, I raced home every day and took care of them. My husband traded the Asian markets, so he worked nights. We had no childcare at night. And when I was cranking out kids, which was a part of my life, I wasn't out and about. I own two teenagers. I own babysitters now. It's like it's very different. So my socializing after work and my overall schedule is very different than it was when I was young. And that's the whole thing. Like life is a marathon, not a sprint. There are going to be times when you like dial it up, and there are going to be times when you dial it back. And that is just fine, because overall it's it's a series of events and relationships that bring meaning in different times and in different ways. But in terms of like speaking or contributing, the first sort of suggestion I would make is, when you speak, people don't really care about you. They care about themselves. So as much as you can like make it about specific tactical advice, the more helpful it's going to be to your audience members. And the second is just tell the truth. I think the reason why I get invited to speak isn't because of like any kind of glorious track record or perfect story, but I'll admit what's hard and openly share failures. And sometimes failures are better teachers than just like rocket ship perfection success. And I admit that's hard. And when you really get that perspective out there, it helps people have more courage and conviction with their own struggles. So it really is not like anyone actually wants to hear about me. They just want to hear about the lessons to make themselves stronger, smarter, faster, better. And I am happy to try to oblige. I like, if anyone could not repeat my mistakes, awesome. That feels great to me.
Awesome. So we're going to do this in two parts. So this one was a little bit more trying to get a little bit more general stuff, but the next time we talk, I want to sit down with you and talk to you a little bit more about your involvement with everything that you're involved in right now, the boards of all the companies that you sit on, the investing that you do, running Jellyvision. So that one will be, there's no way we could do it in in the next couple of minutes. So I just wanted to we're doing that later, so maybe in the next week or so we'll do that. But I really appreciate you doing this again, and I think there's a lot of value that people are going to take in what you just said, Amanda.
Yeah. So to like sum it up, make it easy for people to be helpful. Say thank you and close the loop. And especially if something goes somewhere where someone did you a favor and it worked out, remind them that you go back and keep them posted. It's like a wonderful way to build like meaningful connections and not just transactions.
Exactly. And on that note, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Anya, because even though that we met that first night, Anya was the reason that me and you ended up really talking on at that dinner. So
and she's lovely. Like she should always shout out. She's a lovely person.
Exactly. And to give credit where credit's due. Thank you, Anya. But it was great seeing you, Amanda.
Great seeing you too.